Welcome to the Can PKU Plus open house. My name is Susan Needleman. I'm the MSUD chair. Before we begin, I want to point out to you our new logo and name. We are now Can PKU Plus. We chose to change it from Can PKU Allied Disorders because we want to make it very obvious what we do. We support families with PKU and similar conditions, enhance essentially the plus. Okay, next. We have a packed agenda tonight. First, we will learn more about what Can PKU is and who is here tonight. We will go on to learn about people that make up Can PKU Plus and hear from our specific disease reps. Then we will talk about how you can become involved. Finally, we will hear about the disabilities tax credit that all of us probably are eligible for. Lastly, we will go into breakout rooms based on our disorder and have the opportunity to share more and find out how Can PKU Plus can help you. So who are we? We are Canadian PKU Plus, which is a nonprofit association of volunteers, first organized in the spring of 2008, based in Toronto, Ontario. We are dedicated to providing accurate news, information, and support to families and professionals dealing with PKU and similar rare inherited metabolic disorders. Our mission is to improve the lives of people with PKU and allied disorders, the lives of their families. By allied disorders, we mean other rare inherited metabolic disorders also detected by the modern miracle of newborn screening. So we support families who live with PKU and similar disorders. Some of the ways we do this is by providing you with updates, holding conferences, and having other fun events. We also advocate for you on all levels and can help you fill out the disabilities tax credit. I don't know why I have such a problem enhancing the slides. We are all alike, all of our disorders. We all have disorders that have much in common. They all have a treatment option of a low protein diet. Most of us see a metabolic specialist and dietitian and should have regular blood work done. All of us should keep our amino acid levels in normal range. All of us have one gene that gives us our disorder, and Can PKU supports all of our disorders. Tanya, would you like to go over who does work with Can PKU behind the scenes?
Absolutely, thank you. So the board of directors.
Tanya, you are muted.
Oh. Am I still on mute?
I can hear you.
Perfect. So
Tanya, you're still muted.
No, I think it's just you can't hear me.
Yeah.
Tanya, do you want John to take over the slide while you figure your microphone?
I can hear Tanya.
I can hear Tanya.
I also can hear Tanya.
Yay.
Oh, okay.
I can hear.
I'm just going to put in there, just you can't. Okay, so I'm just going to proceed with this. Our board of directors typically meets with our annual general meeting in September each year. And that's when we fill any vacancies to our director board. Currently, we have the 9 that are showing there in pink. So that's John Adams, myself, David Brennan, Brian Quinn, Adam Burke, Arlene McDonald, Jonna Jameson, Stephanie Garcia, and Jeremy Dion Latour. We also have our officers, which include some of the same people, but in there we also have our treasurer, Francis Goodfellow, You'll see our chair of the board was David Brennan, who sits on the board of directors, myself as vice president, Adam Burke as secretary, and John Adams as president and CEO. We have 3 advisors to our board. The medical advisor is Dr. William Hanley. Our scientific advisor is Dr. Christina Sarkissian. And our nutrition advisor is Barb Mariage.
Thank
In
you.
addition to that, the little purple ones that are all around the bottom are all of our chairs that help in making everything come to fruition when it comes to the work we do. This includes our disability tax manager, our IT manager, etc. There's, meet a lot of our chairs tonight who are for oversees the different disorders. I'm going to leave it at that. That's our screen up there. And if you want a copy, just email me at info@canpku.org and we'll get you a copy of that.
Thank you, Tanya. Sorry, I didn't realize it was my computer before with the
That's
audio
okay.
call. So now we will hear more about our president and our vice president. John, would you like to start?
Hi. This all began for me when our youngest child came into the world 35 years ago. And thanks to something I'd never heard of PKU or any of the allied disorders, never even heard of newborn screening. But we got a phone call shortly after he was born saying, bring him back, we got to do another blood test. And that began the adventure. So his name is also John, and he pretty much decided that mom and dad had better learn quite a bit about PKU. And then in 2008, 3 parents gathered around, 3 different families gathered around our kitchen table and said, we probably need a national association to help raise the bar and get better access to therapies and research and treatments, and et cetera, and support each other. And if nobody else would do it, the 3 of us would give it a try. So a shout out to the 3 founders of Can PKU Plus, Tanya Radu and Christiane DeGoria and yours truly. We've had a really good outcome in the case of our PKU son. Next time you visit the big city of Toronto, and if you have a really serious problem, my son may drive one of the big red fire trucks to come and help you and save your life or whatever, because he loves to be first on scene as the first of the first responders. He's living his dream, and would not have been possible without excellent clinical care, new research, better therapies, and of course the foundation newborn screening.
Tanya?
Great, thanks, John. I'm also going to, I'm the same as John. So my journey started when our son Jacob was born in 2010 and had PKU. Probably took a year and a bit for me to reach out to Can PKU to say, hey, how can I help? And how can I get involved? But since then, it's been a journey from being a mom who just said, hey, how can I get involved, to moving through different processes of helping with the newsletter, the secretarial role, landing now with my vice president and event planner role. So I often joke that between John and I, we make a great team because he's typically in a suit. He's off advocating and dealing with people who are also wearing suit and ties or fancy dresses and skirts, where I'm good to work in my jammies from home, helping families on a day-to-day, where he's making change for a bigger picture. So that's John and I.
Thank you, Tanya. So we just heard from our president and vice president. Thank you, John and Tanya. I'm the MSUD chair. My name is Susan Needleman. We will also hear from Sam, our HCU chair, Melanie, our HCU co-chair, and Michaela, our UCD chair. So like I said, my name is Susan. I have classic MSUD, which is the most severe type, but there are other milder forms. The most common of those are intermediate and variant. I've always enjoyed my low protein diet and formula. I've always known others with MSUD. And after I graduated college, I became involved in the MSUD community. Excuse me. and am now serving as your MSUD chair on Can PKU Plus. I was diagnosed with MSUD at 7 days old through newborn screening. Since the initial hospitalization following my diagnosis, I have been hospitalized 4 times since with high levels. I have 3 minor learning disabilities that may or may not be related to MSUD, dyslexia, executive function disorder, and dyspraxia. Growing up, I spent a lot of time in speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and tutoring in a specialized reading program, all to correct challenges at the very least most likely were caused by MSUD. Some with MSUD have gotten liver transplants, which in many ways have acted as a cure for MSUD, but I have not. I went on to graduate college with a bachelor's degree in computer information systems, and again, I am the MSUD chair. So what are the symptoms or triggers of high levels of MSUD? Maple syrup urine disease is a genetic chronic disease caused by a recessive gene, meaning that both biological parents must be a carrier of the gene in order for their offspring to get it. Those affected are missing an enzyme, which normally is in the liver and breaks down amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Those with MSUD are missing the enzyme that breaks down the 3 essential amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, that are found in all foods. What are the symptoms of MSUD? When some of us have high levels, our urine and earwax can smell like maple syrup. In essence, the name maple syrup urine disease. Our attitude can change when our levels are high. For example, we might become mean, but don't mean it. It's the levels talking. We can also get dizzy, go into a daze, also known as brain fog. Our muscles can become weak, and we can have poor balance. Our speech can be slurred. We can have pain, panic, and anxiety attacks. In severe cases, we can end up in the hospital from high levels. Often this is when we are in a metabolic crisis. In very severe cases, we can go into a coma and even die. What triggers these high levels though? Eating too much protein, that is, protein that goes beyond our small allotted tolerance. If we don't get enough calories or nutrition, our levels can also go up. Extra calories can help our levels go down too. Stress of all kinds can affect our levels as well. This can be good stress and bad stress. For an example, one time my levels went up because I was marching in a parade. I was excited. Some have found that their levels go up when they have big tests in school. Some with MSUD found that their levels can go up from physical activity as well. So any physical exertion that is done needs to be done in moderation. Sam, can you please tell us about yourself?
Hi, so I'm Sam. I was diagnosed with homocystinuria when I was 2.5. Newborn screening didn't really come into play when I was born. So, before diagnosis, I had seizures. I was behind on my development and went behind, like, where I was able to sit up to not being able to sit up on my own. So I went through physical therapy growing up. It affected my eyesight pretty bad. I went through 2 eye surgeries so far. I'm also on a low protein diet, but it's higher than most people with HCU. With homocystinuria, most people are on like a very low protein diet where I think I'm at 40 grams of protein a day, so that's higher compared to a lot of other people.
Did you already cover this or not? Do you need this last one?
Yeah, no, I basically covered that one already.
Melanie, can you tell us about yourself, please?
Sure. Hi. My son Mason is 9 years old, and he was diagnosed when he was just 8 years old. We're coming up on 2 years. Unfortunately, he was missed at newborn screening. He had a really healthy newborn screening, so the test was just not good for him. Maybe if you click onto the next slide, I think I have more info there. Yeah, thank you. It was actually at a routine eye doctor's appointment where the eye doctor noticed the lenses in Mason's eyes were shaking and they were at risk of dislocating. We had no idea what homocystinuria was, but we right away, once he was diagnosed, had to change our lives and explain to our little 8-year-old that he had to change everything about how he eats. Mason then had to have 2 separate eye surgeries, one on each of his eyes to remove the lenses in his eyes. But he now sees really well with his contact lenses, and he eats a low protein diet. It's on the formula, regular blood draws, and he's doing really well.
Thank you. Would you like to tell us about classic HCU?
Yes, so classical HCU is rare, but it's potentially serious inherited condition. The body cannot process the amino acids methionine and homocysteine. Baby has to receive 2 copies of the mutated gene in order to develop HCU, one from the mother and one from the father. And the newborn screening for HCU in some parts of the world. However, often patients are missed, as I mentioned with Mason, because the methionine levels are just not high enough to be detected in newborns, which is what happened to Mason. Other babies have really high levels and they are detected, but in about 1 in 200 to 355,000 worldwide are affected by HCU. But with proper newborn screening, the true incidence is likely closer to 1 in 100,000. There are 9 types of homocystinuria, but unlike classical HCU, the others have low methionine and are vastly different from classical HCU, especially when it comes to treatment. Only classical HCU requires a low protein diet and medical formula.
Thank you. Sam?
So this is limited to like homocystinuria, like classical homocystinuria patients that I can talk about. But not all of them will experience all these symptoms. So some patients will, a lot of them will get like eye problems where they get like lens dislocations of their eyes or myopia or the nearsightedness. You can also get low muscle tone, meaning kind of like what I went through when I was younger before I was diagnosed, where I was able to sit up, but then I went back on my milestone. And it can also affect you where maybe you're not walking till a certain age. Like I didn't walk till I was say 3, so that's quite a bit later. It can also cause psychiatric and behavioral problems. I know for myself, I had this growing up as well, where I would be yelling and screaming when things did not go my way and I didn't understand it. For the learning and intellectual disabilities, I do know that can vary as well from patient to patient. And then there's also developmental delays, which I kind of already touched on. So sitting and walking and crawling. With classical homocystinuria, we are also in risk of having blood clots and stroke if we are not on our low protein diet and formula. Seizures is a less common symptom of HCU, but I happen to have it because I went so long with not being diagnosed and my levels were really high. And a very common thing with homocystinuria is you have excessive height and very long limbs. And we are also at risk of having osteoporosis and also scoliosis.
Thank you. Michaela, would you like to tell us about UCD?
Yes. So hi everyone. My name is Michaela and I have a 5-year-old daughter who has a urea cycle disorder. She was diagnosed with citrullinemia, which is the kind of urea cycle disorder through newborn screening, and has always been on a low protein diet. She really keeps us on our toes. She loves to cook and try new food, so we're always finding new meals for her. And I recently came across a restaurant menu in Australia that included a menu for people with PKU and I guess other low protein allied disorders. And it's a pretty fancy dining menu, and I could see her being a chef for that restaurant one day. She just loves cooking. So I really look forward to connecting with the UCD community in Canada. I'm working with Can PKU. I'm a newer chair. So please reach out to me anytime.
Thank you.
Go to the next slide. Like PKU, a urea cycle disorder is a rare inherited disease, and people with this condition must severely limit their protein intake. And then I have a really short video to play, if you don't mind, Susan, just to a minute and 30 seconds. It explains it better than I could.
I'm going to need some feedback here. What do you guys see right now? Do you still see this slide?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on,
There it is.
1 second, but you want audio with that.
If it's too hard, I can just explain
No,
it.
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, everyone can see a website now?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's no audio, so don't worry. Yeah.
Okay.
It just
Being diagnosed
there
with
is.
a
Never
urea
mind.
cycle disorder can feel overwhelming. Understanding more about it can help. A urea cycle disorder, commonly called a UCD, is a genetic disorder a child is born with. The child inherits a defective gene or genes from his or her parents, or has a spontaneous genetic mutation. People can be diagnosed with a UCD at any point in their life. No matter the age, when food made up of carbs, fats, and protein enters the body, it is broken down in the digestive tract. Protein is broken down, and leftover ammonia, or urea, is eliminated from the body through a healthy urea cycle in the liver. For a person living with a UCD, the urea cycle isn't working correctly, and ammonia can't be removed properly. There are different types of UCDs. The most common one is ornithine transcarbamylase deficiency, or OTC. The name of the UCD is based on which enzyme or transporter isn't working properly in the urea cycle. A healthy urea cycle turns toxic ammonia into urea, so the body can get rid of it naturally. For patients living with a UCD, the ammonia stays in the body and builds up to toxic levels in the blood.
That's
Thank
1:30.
you.
You want to stop
Perfect.
there?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if I can go back to my slides. now.
Okay.
Uh,
I could probably just continue until you get the slides up.
yeah, if you can go on without your stuff.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
I would. Does everyone see? Everyone sees everything though. Give me another second. Just continue.
Okay. So there are 8 kinds of UCDs. I won't try to pronounce them all. But when we get the slides up, you'll be able to see the there we go. One more.
No.
Oh, okay. You'll be able to see the 8 different kinds and their abbreviations. They'll be in little circles. when we have the slides up. There we go. Okay. Okay, and I'll keep going. So my daughter has citrullinemia, but the most common kind of UCD is OTC. And OTC is X-linked, meaning it's typically passed on from a mother to her child. And the other UCDs are autosomal recessive, meaning both parents need to be carriers, like the other disorders that we're talking about here today. So OTC is the only one that's X-linked. And also sometimes the mothers, they'll also have symptoms because they have OTC themselves and they'll pass it on to their kids. So it's different. Okay. Did you?
I was afraid this would happen.
Oh no, sorry, I should have done the video. Okay, I'll keep going. Okay.
We
so
should be
people
good a second.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Does everyone
we
see
go.
one slide? What
Yeah,
does everyone see?
one slide.
Perfect. Okay.
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 Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, so those are the abbreviations for all the different kinds of UCDs. You can skip to the next one, Susan. Okay, great. Thank you. So people with UCDs are at risk of high ammonia. The signs can be subtle, like headache, fatigue, confusion, trouble concentrating, and becoming aggressive. So often these are mistaken for other disorders or other causes, but in the worst case scenarios, hyperammonia can cause brain damage or even death. But fortunately, there are ways to treat UCDs. So this includes a low protein diet with medical food and formula, amino acid supplements, medicine that controls ammonia, liver transplants, and possibly gene therapy and gene editing, which is still in the early stages of being developed. Go to the next one. Thanks, Susan. And so I just want to talk a little bit about newborn screening in Canada. So it's available for citrullinemia and ASA, but not all the other UCDs. There is a test for OTC available in 7 US states, but it's not very reliable and it's not available in Canada. So I'm hoping my work with Can PKU can help advocate for a test for OTC to come to Canada and a better, more reliable test, because often that, especially with boys, that's the most severe kind of UCD. So I'm hoping to advocate for that. And thank you so much. And now I believe over to Tanya and John.
Yep. Tanya, can you tell us about PKU, please?
For sure. I will be a little faster than the other disorders because I think most people here have a pretty good understanding of PKU, as most are affected by PKU. Much like the other disorders, with the exception of OTC, as Michaela has just told us, both parents need to be affected in order to pass on the gene, or it can be a spontaneous mutation as well. But if it's being passed down, it's coming from both parents. It can be from a severe to a mild case. Often you'll hear of it as classical or hyperphagia are the names that are sometimes used. When the protein is eaten, it is Phe or phenylalanine. That's the amino acid that we can't break down, as opposed to some of the other ones mentioned today. Because we can't break this down, tyrosine then can't be made. And this is usually used for making muscles and stress reduction. Without treatment, it says these children, but it's these individuals, can often happen in childhood, will develop permanent intellectual disabilities. We can also see seizures, delayed development, behavior problems, and psychiatric disorders are also common. Untreated individuals may have a musty or mouse-like odor as a side effect of excess phenylalanine in the blood. Children with classic PKU tend to have lighter skin and hair than other family members who are not affected by the disorder and may have skin disorders such as eczema. When it comes to maternal PKU, at one point, people were told no, they could not have children if they had PKU, but that is no longer the case. As long as you're closely monitored by your clinic, maintaining your levels and dietary needs, you can go on to have very healthy children. Currently available medications in Canada, are approved in Canada, are Kuvan and Palynziq. Kuvan is available in some areas on government programming, but not all. And of course, Poundsy is still making its way through those channels to become available to us.
Thank you.
Next slide.
Now that you have a better idea of what we do you want to get involved? We are always looking for volunteers. You can run an event, become the PKU chair, or assist an existing chair. We also have some board of directors positions opening in September. If you are bilingual, do you want to translate for us? Or do you just want to buy a t-shirt? Our t-shirt fundraiser started today. You will be emailed our contact information and the link to those t-shirts after this event. Tanya, would you tell us about the events we hold?
Sure. There are 3 types of events that you'll see Can PKU doing. One are local events. These are often organized and created by family members such as yourselves. They're sometimes Spare for Rare as an example of this. This is our bowling fundraiser that used to be called Pins for PKU, but in our expansion, we've changed the name. It has raised about $20,000 to help with travel scholarships since it started just a few years ago. It's super easy to set up. Our fundraising chair is more than happy to help with that. It could be as easy as your family going out to a bowling event, or it can be a big citywide event. We also offer online and virtual events, such as our virtual cafes. We offer these for different demographics. So we may have an MSUD cafe. Sometimes we'll have an adults cafe or a parent of those with a rare cafe. We've not yet been able to get those teens and children involved, but we really hope someday to have enough of their emails to be able to get them together as well. We also offer educational events where we don't have to worry about the cost of travel. We can just all sign on, such as an event like this. We do have regional events, 5 per year, typically across the country, where we bring the information closer to your home. The schedule for this year is up on the screen right now. So Quebec City is in just a couple of weeks, May the 7th. That event is predominantly in French to meet with the needs of that community. On the 13th of May, we'll be in Vancouver, BC. Saskatchewan will be holding our Camp Magnifique from June 2nd to the 4th. In Ottawa will be September 16th. And we'll be in New Brunswick for the Atlantic provinces on September the 30th.
John, would you please tell us about disabilities tax credit?
Okay, I know some in the audience know about the disability tax credit, but for those of you who don't, this is a quick introduction. The most important thing is you don't have to be disabled to qualify for this thing called the disability tax credit. If you have been diagnosed and you're on a time-consuming therapy, a life-sustaining therapy, you can qualify, and you're on that therapy to prevent becoming significantly disabled physically and or mentally. That's what it's all about. It's unique to Canada. It's provided by the Parliament and the Government of Canada. It's federal, not provincial or territorial. There's a process you have to go through, and we have a volunteer team who are happy to assist you. And nothing happens without a struggle. Nothing happens without some rolling up your sleeves. But we've had some successes, and Parliament finished the process just last year of changing the law that governs this, so that specifically, without having to go to the tax court over and over again, people who are on therapy with medical foods and medical formulas and can qualify, it's specifically for the first time recognized as qualifying under the life-sustaining therapy provision for qualifying for the disability tax credit. The DTC, as we call it in short, is important in its own right, but it's also more important because it's increasingly used by governments, federal and provincial, as a passport to other potential benefits. And I'm happy to answer questions later on. This is just a teaser, a quick introduction. And it's actually the disability tax credit and helping people have actually brought several people here into the PKU plus allied disorders community. So welcome.
Thank you. So after today's event, you can continue to follow us on social media. You can visit our website or email us after this event. All of that information will be emailed to you, so you can easily just click on it and find out more. So how can we help you? We want to know, how can we make your metabolic lives easier? We're going to go into breakout rooms in a moment where we can discuss this more. But if you would like to do it more privately, feel free to email us. Again, our info is on a screen, but also will be emailed to you after the event. So before we do go into breakout rooms, does anyone have any questions?